The emergency broadcast interrupted every television in the city at exactly 11:47 p.m. At first everyone thought it was another storm warning. The screen turned black. Static crackled softly. Then a government seal appeared beside white text reading, "National Emergency Alert." A calm male voice followed seconds later. If you are currently inside your home, remain indoors after midnight. People online immediately started joking about it. Memes. Fake invasion theories, martial law rumors. Nobody took the message seriously until the broadcast continued. Do not respond to voices calling from outside. That's when people started paying attention. The alert repeated itself across every channel again. Phones, radios, streaming services. Even digital billboards outside stopped working and displayed the same warning. Stay inside after midnight. I was working night security alone inside the parking structure beneath Tower 7 downtown when the second broadcast aired. By then the entire city already felt wrong. Traffic vanished unusually early. Most stores closed before midnight, and every police scanner channel sounded flooded with static. My coworker Ethan sat beside the security monitors nervously refreshing social media feeds. "People are freaking out," he muttered. Thousands of posts filled the internet already. Videos showed military convoys entering several cities nationwide. Others claimed helicopters circled neighborhoods warning people to stay indoors. Most clips disappeared minutes after upload. Then the third emergency broadcast activated automatically across our security screens. This time the voice sounded less calm. "If you hear knocking after midnight," static interrupted the message briefly. Then the speaker continued, "Do not look outside." The lights inside the parking structure flickered hard enough to briefly shut off several camera feeds. Ethan frowned immediately. "You think this is real?" Before I answered, every car alarm inside the underground garage activated simultaneously. Hundreds of alarms exploded through the concrete levels below us. The sound became deafening instantly. Then all the alarms stopped together. Complete silence followed. One of the parking cameras near level B2 suddenly came back online by itself. The screen showed an empty concrete corridor at first. Then a figure walked slowly into frame. Tall, wearing dark clothing, standing perfectly still beneath the flickering lights. Ethan leaned closer toward the monitor. "Is that someone from maintenance?" The figure didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there staring directly into the camera. Then another person stepped into frame beside it. Then another. And another. Within seconds, nearly 20 silent figures stood together motionless inside the underground parking level, all facing the camera, watching. Then at exactly midnight, every figure on the screen raised one arm simultaneously and pointed upward, toward us. Nobody inside the security office spoke for several seconds. 20 figures stood motionless on the parking camera feed pointing upward directly toward our level, toward us. Ethan forced a nervous laugh. "Okay, that's not funny." I grabbed the radio immediately. "Control to parking staff. Anyone on level B2 respond." Only static answered. Then one of the figures on the monitor moved. Not walking, twitching. Its arm bent slowly farther upward until the elbow snapped backward unnaturally. Ethan recoiled from the screen. What the hell? The security cameras flickered again. For half a second the underground level disappeared into black static. When the image returned, the figures were closer, much closer. No footsteps, no movement caught on camera. Just suddenly standing nearer to the elevator entrance leading toward our office. The emergency broadcast activated again through the ceiling speakers overhead. If someone you know asks to be let inside after midnight, the voice distorted badly. Do not trust them. A loud banging echoed somewhere above us from the city streets outside. Then more followed. Dozens of impacts. People screaming. Car crashes. The entire city suddenly sounded alive with panic. Ethan rushed toward the office window overlooking the street entrance ramp. "I think people are running." I grabbed him instantly. "Don't. Too late." He already looked outside. His face changed immediately. Not fear. Confusion. Like his brain couldn't process what he saw. Slowly he stepped closer toward the glass. "They're just standing there." I carefully looked beside him toward the street above. Hundreds of people filled the intersection outside Tower 7. Perfectly still. Every person faced the buildings surrounding them silently beneath the flashing streetlights. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then all at once, every head turned upward simultaneously toward our window. Ethan stumbled backward. Oh my God. One woman standing in the street smiled unnaturally wide. Then she pointed directly at us. A second later, every person outside copied her exactly, pointing upward. At the same time, the parking cameras downstairs suddenly started failing one by one. Level B2. Offline. Level B3. Offline. Then the elevator camera activated automatically. The figures from downstairs now stood inside the elevator cabin staring directly into the ceiling camera. There were more of them now. At least 30. The elevator doors slowly closed, and the floor indicator above the feed changed. B2, B1, ground 1, 2, they were coming up. Then Ethan's phone rang loudly inside the office. His expression immediately went pale. "It's my wife." He answered instantly. "Honey." For several seconds he listened silently. Then his face lost all color. "What do you mean I'm outside?" A woman's voice softly echoed through the phone speaker. Not from the call. From somewhere deeper inside the parking garage below us. "Ethan," the voice came again. Closer this time. Perfectly mimicking his wife. "Please let me in." The elevator kept climbing. Floor by floor. Slowly. The security monitor showed dozens of pale figures packed tightly inside the cabin without moving, all staring directly upward into the camera. Ethan backed away from his ringing phone like it had become poisonous. "That's not her," he whispered. But the voice downstairs kept calling softly through the parking garage. "Ethan," a loud metallic bang echoed below us. The elevator had reached our floor. Ding! Nobody inside the security office moved. The elevator doors on camera 4 slowly slid open, revealing the hallway leading directly toward us. The figures remained standing inside the cabin motionless for several seconds. Then all of them stepped out together at the exact same time. Same movement. Same speed. Like copies of one body. The overhead hallway lights flickered while they filled the corridor outside the office cameras. 30 silent people staring directly toward us. Watching. Then one of them walked closer to the camera. A woman. At least it used to be. Her eyes looked completely black beneath the flickering lights, and her smile stretched too wide across her face. The emergency broadcast interrupted again suddenly. This time the voice sounded frightened. "If they begin imitating people you know," static swallowed part of the message. "Do not answer the door." The office lights dimmed hard. Then came knocking. 3 slow knocks against the security office door behind us. Ethan froze instantly. The woman's voice came softly from outside. "Honey, please open the door." Perfect imitation. Same tone. Same breathing. Same little crack in her voice. Ethan looked ready to break. She sounds exactly the same. Another knock. Then several more voices joined her outside the office. Different people, different ages, all speaking calmly through the door together. "We just want to talk. Let us in. You're safe now." I checked the security monitor again. The hallway camera now showed over 50 people outside our office. More kept arriving from the stairwells every second, and every single one stared directly toward the door. Then the camera glitched briefly. For one frame, their faces changed. Not human anymore. Their mouths open impossibly wide while dark shapes moved beneath their skin like something alive crawling inside them. Then the image returned to normal. The knocking outside suddenly stopped. Complete silence filled the office. Ethan whispered, "Maybe they left." Then a new voice spoke softly from directly above us in the ventilation shaft. My voice. "Open the door." Nobody breathed after hearing my voice inside the ventilation shaft. "Open the door." Same tone. Same accent. Perfectly copied. The metal vent above us creaked softly like something heavy crawled through it overhead. Ethan looked completely panicked now. How is that possible? Another sound echoed through the ventilation system. More voices. Dozens of them whispering through the ducts all around the office. Some crying. Some laughing softly. Some begging for help. Every single voice belonged to people we knew. Family. Friends. Coworkers. The security cameras outside suddenly failed again. Static flooded every hallway feed. Then one camera slowly returned online. Not the hallway. The street outside Tower 7. Thousands of people now stood motionless across the city intersection beneath flickering emergency lights. Cars sat abandoned everywhere. Some still crashed into sidewalks with doors left open. And every person outside stared upward toward the surrounding buildings silently. Waiting. The emergency broadcast returned again across the office speakers. This time the message sounded damaged, like whoever recorded it was terrified. They are drawn to observation. Heavy static interrupted briefly. Do not let them know you can see them. A loud clang exploded above us. The ventilation shaft bent downward slightly. Something crawled through it directly overhead now. Slowly, the metal groaned beneath its weight. Then Ethan's wife spoke again outside the office door. But her voice sounded wrong now. Too wide. Too stretched. "Honey," a horrible wet crack followed outside, like bones snapping. Then she continued speaking while something dragged across the hallway floor. "Please look at me." The office lights suddenly shut off again. Complete darkness. Only emergency red backup lights activated seconds later, painting the office in dim blood-colored shadows. And in that red light, the elevator doors behind the hallway finally opened again. The security camera showed something new standing inside the cabin. Tall, thin, its arms nearly touched the floor. No face, just smooth pale skin stretched over a human-shaped head. The thing slowly tilted toward the camera. Then every person surrounding the office copied the movement instantly, at the same angle, at the same speed. The creature inside the elevator lifted one long finger and pointed directly toward the camera lens, toward us. Then every phone inside the office vibrated simultaneously, mine included. One new emergency notification appeared across every screen. "Do not go outside until sunrise." The message disappeared immediately afterward. Then all the office windows shattered inward at once. Glass exploded across the office in a storm of shards. Ethan screamed and fell backward while freezing night air rushed inside from the shattered windows overlooking downtown. The city outside looked dead. Traffic lights blinked pointlessly over abandoned intersections. Emergency sirens echoed somewhere far away beneath the storm clouds, and thousands of silent people still stood motionless in the streets below, staring upward at the surrounding buildings, waiting. The thing inside the elevator finally stepped out into the hallway. The security camera distorted immediately around it. Static bled across the screen while the tall, pale creature moved unnaturally toward the office door. Every human figure outside followed behind it silently, like a procession. The ventilation system above us suddenly burst open. Metal crashed onto the office floor while something large crawled through the darkness overhead. I grabbed Ethan and dragged him away from the vents just as long, pale fingers reached down through the broken opening. Too many joints. Too many knuckles. The fingers twitched blindly through the air, searching for us. Then came my voice again from inside the vent. "Closer now. Found you." The emergency stairwell alarm activated automatically somewhere outside the office. A pre-recorded evacuation message echoed faintly through the hallways. "Please proceed calmly to the nearest exit." Then another voice interrupted it. "Not pre-recorded. Not human. Come outside." The office door suddenly dented inward violently. Everyone outside had started pushing against it together. Slowly, steadily, the metal hinges groaned. Ethan stared at the security monitors in horror. There's hundreds of them now. He was right. The hallway cameras showed the entire office floor completely filled with people. Every corridor, every stairwell, every elevator entrance, all staring toward us motionlessly beneath the flashing emergency lights. Then one of them stepped forward toward the office door. A little girl, maybe 8 years old. She looked directly into the hallway camera and smiled softly. Then she spoke with Ethan's wife's voice. "He can still save us." The office lights flickered again. And for one horrifying second, every person on the camera feeds changed. Their bodies split open unnaturally beneath the skin like something inside them was trying to unfold outward. Black limbs, too many eyes, moving beneath stretched flesh. Then the image snapped back to normal. The thing at the office door slammed against it harder this time. The hinges cracked loudly. We didn't have long. Captain Harris from Central Dispatch suddenly came through the emergency radio in bursts of static. "If anyone hears this," gunfire echoed somewhere behind him. "They react when observed. Don't look directly at." A horrible screaming sound interrupted the transmission. Then silence. Outside the shattered office windows, every person standing in the streets below slowly raised one arm again, pointing upward, toward our floor. Then all the lights across the entire city went black simultaneously. Darkness consumed the city. Not normal darkness. Every light vanished at once so completely it felt like the entire world had been unplugged. Outside the shattered office windows, the streets below disappeared beneath blackness except for occasional distant flashes of lightning above the skyline. And yet, we could still see them. Thousands of silhouettes standing motionless throughout the streets, watching the buildings, watching us. The emergency generators inside Tower 7 kicked in seconds later with a low mechanical rumble. Red backup lights flooded the office floor again. The thing outside the security door slammed against it harder. Metal bent inward violently. The hinges wouldn't survive much longer. Ethan grabbed a fire axe from the emergency cabinet nearby with trembling hands. "What are they?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure they even were they anymore. Another impact hit the door. Then another. The ventilation shaft above us suddenly rattled loudly again. Something huge moved through the ducts overhead, crawling directly toward the office center. Fast now. very fast. The emergency radio crackled again through heavy static. A woman's terrified voice screamed through it, "Don't let them see your eyes." Gunshots echoed behind her. Then silence. The office monitors suddenly returned online by themselves. Every camera inside Tower 7 activated simultaneously. Lobby cameras, hallway cameras, elevators, stairwells. Every floor was filled with people standing motionless beneath the red lights. But one monitor showed something worse. The rooftop camera. Hundreds of figures surrounded the rooftop emergency helipad in perfect circles. And at the center of them, something enormous crouched against the roof itself. At first my brain couldn't understand its shape. Too many limbs. Too tall. Its body looked stretched and unfinished, like something halfway between human and insect. Long black arms hung over the building edges while pale skin pulsed slowly beneath the storm rain. The rooftop camera distorted violently every time the creature moved. Then it slowly lifted its head upward toward the storm clouds. And every person inside Tower 7 copied the motion instantly. The office door burst partially open. Pale hands reached through the gap, blindly grabbing at the air. Ethan swung the fire axe hard enough to crush one wrist against the metal frame. Black liquid spilled across the floor. The hand immediately pulled back. But outside the doorway, nobody screamed. Nobody reacted. Dozens of smiling faces simply stared through the opening silently. Then all of them spoke together in the exact same voice. "We can see you now." The rooftop creature suddenly unfolded upward. Its body rose so high the camera could barely fit it inside frame anymore. Then the emergency broadcast returned one final time across every speaker in the office. The voice sounded exhausted, broken. "If you are hearing this, static consumed several seconds. Sunrise will not stop them." Then the transmission ended forever, and something began climbing down the side of Tower 7 toward our floor. The entire building shook as something massive crawled down the outside of Tower 7. Concrete groaned. Windows exploded on lower floors somewhere beneath us. And every person crowding the office doorway suddenly stepped backward at the exact same time, making space, like they were waiting for something to arrive. Ethan stared at the security monitors in horror. The exterior cameras along the building walls flickered rapidly between static and blurred movement. Then one feed finally stabilized. The creature climbing the tower filled almost the entire frame. its limbs dug directly into the concrete exterior while black rainwater poured from pale skin stretched too tightly across its body. Human faces moved slowly beneath the surface of its flesh, still alive, still whispering. One face suddenly turned toward the camera. My face. Its mouth opened slowly. Then every speaker inside the office whispered in my voice, "Why are you hiding?" The office door bent inward harder. Metal screamed beneath the pressure from the crowd outside. Dozens of black eyes stared through the widening gap now, watching us, smiling. Ethan backed toward the shattered windows, trembling. "We're dead." Then the rooftop monitor suddenly changed. Military helicopters. 3 of them approaching through the storm toward Tower 7. Searchlights swept across nearby buildings while loudspeakers echoed faintly through the rain. For all survivors, remain inside and avoid visual contact with infected individuals. The people outside the office stopped moving instantly after hearing the helicopters. Every head tilted upward toward the sound. The rooftop creature did the same. Then the city below erupted into screaming. Thousands of voices shrieked together from the streets outside all at once. The helicopter's searchlights crossed over the crowd below briefly. Huge mistake. Every person exposed to the light suddenly sprinted. Not human running. Faster. Jerking violently through the streets toward the buildings. The pilots realized too late. One helicopter spotlight swept across the side of Tower 7 directly past our office windows, and for one horrible second, the beam illuminated the thing climbing toward us outside. Its body wasn't solid. It constantly shifted shape beneath the skin like hundreds of people fused together trying to escape. Too many arms. Too many faces. Too many eyes opening and closing randomly across its chest. The helicopter spotlight froze on it. Then the creature looked directly at the aircraft. Every monitor inside the office exploded into static. Outside, the helicopter suddenly jerked sideways violently midair like something hit it. The pilot screamed through the loudspeaker. Then the aircraft spiraled directly into a nearby skyscraper. Fire erupted across downtown instantly. The shockwave shook Tower 7 hard enough to knock us to the floor. The office door finally burst open. Dozens of people flooded silently into the room beneath the red emergency lights. Not running, walking slowly, smiling, and behind them in the hallway, something much taller lowered itself from the ceiling upside down, crawling toward us through the flashing red light. using human arms that bent the wrong direction. The people entering the office moved slowly at first, too slowly, like they knew escaping was impossible now. Their black eyes reflected the flashing red emergency lights while dozens of smiling faces filled the room around us silently. None of them blinked. None of them spoke, except for the thing crawling upside down across the ceiling behind them. It used human arms like spider legs bending sharply backward with what cracking sounds every time it moved. Its pale skin stretched tightly across a body that constantly shifted shape beneath the surface. Faces pushed outward from inside it, screaming silently before sinking back into the flesh again. Ethan swung the fire axe wildly at the nearest infected person. The blade buried deep into the man's shoulder. Black liquid sprayed across the office walls. But the man didn't react. He simply smiled wider. Then all the infected people inside the office copied Ethan's smile simultaneously. The creature on the ceiling suddenly stopped moving. Its head twisted unnaturally upside down toward us. And in a perfect imitation of Ethan's wife, it whispered, "You looked outside." The office emergency radio exploded with static again. A terrified military operator shouted through gunfire somewhere nearby, "Do not let them gather." The transmission ended in screaming. Outside the shattered windows, flames from the crashed helicopter spread across downtown while thousands of infected people flooded through the streets below like one enormous living organism. Then something moved inside the burning skyscraper across from Tower 7. Huge. At first I thought the fire distorted the building shape. Then several floors of the skyscraper bulged outward violently, like something inside was unfolding. The creature above us suddenly screeched. Not human, not animal. A deep metallic scream powerful enough to shake the office walls. Every infected person inside Tower 7 immediately froze motionless, listening. Then all of them turned toward the shattered windows at the exact same time, watching the burning skyscraper outside. And slowly, something massive began emerging from inside the building across the street. Unarmed, enormous, covered in moving human faces fused into pale flesh. Glass and concrete rained into the streets below while the gigantic limb pulled itself outward through the collapsing floors. Ethan stared in complete horror. "There's more than one." The office floor suddenly trembled hard beneath our feet. Then again. Something gigantic had entered Tower 7 below us. The stairwell alarms activated automatically floor by floor beneath the building. Level 12 breached, level 18 breached, level 24 breached. Whatever was inside the tower was climbing upward, fast. The infected people surrounding us slowly stepped aside together, creating a path toward the office doorway, like they wanted us to see something approaching through the hall. Heavy footsteps echoed beyond the corridor. Not footsteps, impacts. The red emergency lights flickered harder with every movement getting closer. Then a silhouette appeared at the far end of the hallway, tall enough its head scraped the ceiling, and when it stepped fully into the flashing red light, I recognized the face immediately. Captain Harris, or what remained of him. His body had been stretched to nearly 9 feet tall, while additional arms hung motionless from his ribs beneath torn security armor, and every mouth growing across his chest smiled at us together. "Come outside," they whispered. Captain Harris blocked the entire hallway, or whatever had replaced him did. His stretched body twitched unnaturally beneath the flashing red emergency lights, while multiple arms dragged against the walls beside him, leaving long black streaks across the concrete. But his face still looked almost human. That somehow made it worse. Every mouth growing from his chest whispered together softly, "Come outside." Behind him, the hallway no longer looked normal. The walls moved, breathing slowly beneath the surface, like Tower 7 itself had become alive. Faces pressed outward through the ceiling panels, silently screaming before sinking back inside the flesh-covered walls again. Ethan backed toward the shattered office windows in panic. "There's nowhere left to go." Captain Harris took another step forward. The entire floor trembled beneath his weight. Then every infected person inside the office suddenly knelt simultaneously, heads lowered, like worshippers. The thing wearing Harris smiled wider, and somewhere deep below us inside the tower, something enormous roared. Not loud, deep, ancient. The sound vibrated through the concrete structure beneath our feet hard enough to make the office windows shake. Then all the emergency lights inside Tower 7 switched from red to white instantly. Bright sterile light flooded every hallway, every office, every stairwell, and for the first time, we saw the building clearly. The walls weren't walls anymore. Pale organic growth covered almost every surface inside the tower, pulsing slowly like living tissue. Veins spread through the ceiling. Eyes blinked open inside the floors. Entire human bodies appeared partially fused into the walls, still moving weakly beneath layers of flesh. Tower 7 wasn't being invaded. It was being absorbed. Captain Harris slowly pointed one malformed arm toward the office windows overlooking the city. "Look." Against every survival instinct, I looked outside, and finally understood why the broadcasts told people not to observe them. The city below no longer made sense. The streets moved, not people. The streets themselves. Massive black shades shifted beneath entire city blocks like something alive slept beneath the buildings. Skyscrapers bent slightly toward one another unnaturally, and throughout downtown, enormous pale structures rose slowly above the skyline, hidden partially by storm clouds and darkness. Not creatures. Parts of creatures. Impossible in size. One of them slowly opened what looked like an eye larger than several buildings combined, and it looked directly toward Tower 7. Every infected person inside the office smiled instantly. The thing wearing Harris whispered, "It sees you now." Then every phone in the building activated simultaneously. Millions of emergency alerts echoed together across the city. "Do not look at the moon." Ethan slowly turned toward the shattered windows. Outside, the storm clouds above downtown had finally started to clear, and something enormous was moving behind them. Something moved behind the clouds above the city. At first it looked impossible to understand. The storm itself seemed wrong now. The clouds rotated slowly around a shape so enormous my brain refused to process its size. Ethan stared upward through the shattered office windows, frozen in terror. Then every emergency phone alert inside Tower 7 repeated again. "Do not look at the moon." Too late. The clouds finally separated, and the entire city went silent. No sirens, no screams, no gunfire, nothing. Because hanging above downtown was no moon. A gigantic pale sphere filled the night sky, impossibly close above the city, covered in shifting black veins and countless blinking eyes opening slowly across its surface. The thing wasn't orbiting Earth. It was watching. Every infected person inside the office immediately collapsed to their knees facing the sky. Captain Harris lowered his head too, while all the mouths across his body whispered together. It woke up. The enormous eye above the clouds slowly focused downward toward the city below, and suddenly, everyone still alive began screaming. The sound echoed across downtown from thousands of buildings simultaneously. People who had survived indoors. People hiding. People who looked outside. All screaming together. Then the streets below started moving violently. Buildings cracked apart. Entire intersections split open while colossal black limbs rose slowly from beneath the city itself, tearing through concrete and subway tunnels like paper. Tower 7 shook so violently the office floor partially collapsed beneath us. Several infected people fell through the cracks laughing while black tendrils crawled upward from the darkness below. The thing wearing Captain Harris suddenly turned toward me. For the first time, it looked afraid. "You need to stop looking at it." I tried looking away from the sky. I physically couldn't. The giant eye above the clouds pulled at something inside my head. Every second I watched it, I understood more. Not words, not thoughts, shapes, movements. Impossible things hidden behind reality itself. My vision blurred violently, and then I saw them, not just in the city, everywhere. Gigantic shapes standing silently across the oceans, inside storms, beneath mountains. Watching humanity for centuries from places people never looked long enough to notice. The emergency radio suddenly returned one final time. Only static at first. Then a weak voice whispered through it, "If anyone is still human." Gunfire echoed behind the speaker. "Do not let them see your face." The transmission ended forever. Outside the office, the flesh-covered hallways of Tower 7 suddenly began opening wider like enormous jaws unfolding through the building. And far below us, beneath the collapsing streets, something much larger started climbing toward the surface. Something even the infected feared. Because for the first time all night, every smiling face inside the tower disappeared, and panic replaced it. The entire city was collapsing, not from explosions, not from earthquakes. Something underneath downtown was pushing upward through the streets itself. Tower 7 groaned violently while the floors twisted beneath us like the building had become soft. Concrete walls split apart, revealing pulsing black flesh beneath the structure. The thing climbing from below was almost here, and every infected person inside the tower knew it. Panic spread through them instantly. People that had smiled all night now stumbled backward in terror, staring toward the lower floors. Some began screaming. Others clawed at their own faces desperately, like they were trying to remove something beneath their skin. Captain Harris looked down the hallway toward the stairwells. All the mouths growing across his body whispered together nervously, "It's awake." Then the lights died again. Total darkness swallowed Tower 7. Only the giant eye above the clouds still illuminated the city through the shattered windows. A pale moonlight glow flooded downtown. and from somewhere deep beneath the tower, we heard it breathing, slow, massive, ancient. Every inhale made the entire building tremble. Every exhale sounded like wind moving through underground tunnels miles below the city. Then came the sound of metal tearing apart far beneath us. Floor after floor collapsing upward. Whatever was climbing toward the surface wasn't using stairs anymore. It was forcing itself directly through the building. The infected people surrounding us suddenly fled in panic toward every hallway exit, not running like humans, crawling, throwing themselves through broken walls and ventilation shafts trying to escape upward. Even the creature on the ceiling vanished instantly into the darkness. Only Captain Harris remained standing in the hallway watching the lower floors, terrified. Then something moved below us. At first I thought the office floor was splitting open again. Then I realized I was opening beneath the cracks. Huge, black, blinking slowly from somewhere impossibly deep inside the tower. Ethan screamed and stumbled backward away from it. The eye beneath the floor looked directly at us, and every sound in the city stopped instantly. No wind, no sirens, nothing, complete silence. Then the giant eye above the clouds closed for the first time all night. Darkness covered downtown completely, and in that silence, a voice spoke from beneath Tower 7, not through speakers, not through radios, inside our heads. We did not send the others. Captain Harris collapsed immediately, clutching his skull, screaming. Black liquid poured from every mouth, growing across his body. The voice continued. They only copied what they saw. The office walls around us began melting slowly into black organic matter. The tower was no longer stable. It was being consumed from below. And then, for the first time all night, something outside the building screamed in fear. Not a human. One of the gigantic things moving through the city. The sound shook the skyline. Whatever was beneath Tower 7, the creatures above were terrified of it too. Then the floor underneath us finally burst open. The floor exploded upward beneath us in a storm of concrete, steel, and black flesh. Ethan vanished instantly into the darkness below, screaming. I barely caught the edge of the collapsing office as the entire floor of Tower 7 split apart around me, and something enormous finally emerged from beneath the building. Not a creature. Not exactly. A hand. A gigantic human hand larger than city streets forced itself upward through the collapsing tower wrapped in chains thick as subway tunnels. The skin looked ancient, burned, covered in symbols carved directly into the flesh itself, and everywhere the hand touched, the infection died instantly. The walls of living flesh covering Tower 7 shriveled black and collapsed. The infected people throughout the hallways screamed in absolute terror. Captain Harris tried crawling away desperately, but the massive hand reached upward through the broken floors and grabbed him. Every mouth across his body screamed together before collapsing into black liquid instantly. Then the voice inside my head returned. Calm, ancient. They were feeding it. Outside the shattered windows, the giant eye above the clouds opened wider. The enormous creatures moving through downtown suddenly began retreating back beneath the streets and collapsing buildings. Afraid. The thing below Tower 7 was worse than them. Much worse. The giant hand continued pulling itself upward through the city, revealing part of an enormous body chain beneath downtown itself. Human in shape, impossible in size. Its head alone rose higher than surrounding skyscrapers, while thousands of glowing symbols burned across pale skin hidden underground for centuries. And around its throat, massive broken chains dragged through the collapsing streets. Then I understood. The emergency broadcasts. The creatures, the imitations. None of it was an invasion. It was containment failing. The thing beneath the city slowly lifted its face toward the sky, and the giant eye above the clouds finally reacted for the first time. Fear. A scream echoed across the atmosphere itself, shaking every building remaining downtown. The pale sphere above the clouds began moving backward away from Earth. Retreating. The gigantic chained figure below Tower 7 watched it leave silently. Then millions of infected people across the city collapsed motionless at once. Dead. The streets became silent. The creatures vanished beneath the ground. And one by one, the giant eyes above the clouds disappeared into darkness. The storm finally stopped. Hours later, rescue helicopters circled the ruins of downtown at sunrise. Tower 7 was gone completely. Half the city had collapsed inward around a massive crater stretching for miles. But they never found the gigantic chained figure again. Only enormous broken chains descending endlessly into the darkness below the city. The government blamed the disaster on terrorism and chemical contamination. Most survivors disappeared within weeks afterward, including Ethan. But sometimes late at night, Emergency broadcasts still interrupt televisions across the country for a few seconds. No warning. No explanation. Just one sentence spoken by the same exhausted voice every time. Do not let it wake up again.